Hey everyone, wanted to take some time today to talk about 5 things that will help you catch fish using your Garmin Livescope in an open water situation. I've used it extensively for ice fishing when I first got it, and it's really kind of the nuclear bomb for that, and mastered its use and wanted to, this season in my bass fishing circuits, really start to try to understand what can give me an advantage using that Livescope technology to open water fish. And I figured some things out this year and I want to share them with you.
Alex just landed that small.
Hey, today we're going to talk a little bit about how to fish with your Livescope, and I'll talk a little bit about what I do. You've seen dozens of videos on how to set up your Livescope, but not many on how people are actually using it to catch fish. And I'll show you a little bit about what I'm doing today. First thing, check my settings video. I set up so I got about 75 feet. That's a full cast length for me. But most of my fishing is done at about the 35-foot range. I've got 75 feet out there, and I've got the bottom within 2 feet of the bottom of the screen, so I've got a good window to watch. And then I'll actually take my bait, and I'll get, and I'll talk about my bait setup too a little bit later. But what I'm doing at this particular time is I'll actually just flip out 35 feet ahead of my trolling motor. I've got the actual Livescope transducer on the bottom of my trolling motor, so whichever way my trolling motor is pointed is the way I'm going to be fishing. And what I do then is I can both look for targets on my Livescope, and you'll see my bait as I flip out there ahead of the boat. You'll see the bait fall on the screen at about that 35-foot mark when I'm just pitching it. I've got it down so that I can, when I pitch out about that far, that's 35 feet, and lo and behold, right there at 35 feet, there's the bait falling through the water column on my screen. Sometimes I'll see the fish, sometimes I'll see a weed edge or the cover I'm shooting at, or sometimes if I'm working my way around a weed edge, I won't see anything until that bait starts to fall, and then I'll see a fish emerge and grab it. And I'll know 9 times out of 10 that I've got a fish on because I'll see it happen on my screen. So it's a real engaging way to fish. It's also caught us fish when you know, just blind casting, we'd have missed them. So I continue to work my way, and I'll work my way around cover, I'll work my way around points, weed edges, and just continue to pitch like that 30 to 40 feet out in front of me. Continue to watch my scope. I'll continue to move my scope, always paying attention to where the head is, and then just continue to pitch out in front, pause, get off my trolling motor, let it sink, fall. I'll watch it hit the bottom, give it a couple of pops, don't see anything, reel it back up. Same thing again. I'm looking forward, pitch it out, adjust my head, watch it fall through the water column, and I'll flip a video up to show you what that looks like as it falls through the column. But that is the active way to continue to move your way around cover and structure, target things that you see, or target the cover itself and watch the fish react to it on the screen. And you'll see those fish move through the screen and grab your bait, and off they go. Okay, there might be a fish up here ahead. It looks like it might be a school of them. Same thing. I try to use almost kind of a flipping technique to control where my bait goes as accurately as I can, let it fall. There's a fish, some small fish looking at it. You'll see them follow it down to the bottom, and then you can actually get yourself prepared to feel what's going on with your bite. Okay, we're going to get into the 5 things that I think you need to know in order to utilize your Livescope to fish in an open water situation better. The first thing, number 1 thing, is get your color gain dialed up. And I've got my color gain set at 85%, and it helps you see your lure, smaller lure presentations. And in bass fishing, a small lure, let's say, is a 3.5 inch, 3.25 inch tube bait, finesse tube bait. That's a pretty big bait in terms of size-wise compared to like an ice fishing jig, but it's still probably one of the smaller presentations you're going to use when bass fishing, that or a shaky head worm or something like that. But to see that, you're going to need to have your color gain up to 85%. That's number one. Number two, your forward range needs to be set at 70 feet. 60, 70 feet is about the person's cast, and setting that out there, that forward range at that full cast allows you to fish in from that. That's where you need to start to practice. In the video, we'll talk about our 35-foot distance, that distance I like to pitch. But the reason I do that is so I could see my bait really well at that 35-foot range. And one important aspect of that is get off your trolling motor when you make that pitch. You'll see me in the video pitching. Every time I pitch and I detect my bait out there at that 35-foot range and I see it start to fall, I'm off that trolling motor. I'm not making any noise with it. I'm letting the bait drift down, and I'm not moving real fast towards my bait. That 35-foot range allows you to see and detect your bait, get used to seeing and detecting your bait, and then you can start to move out. And as fish get pressured, you'll need to move out to further distances. But that 30 to 35-foot range, 40-foot range is a real good distance to start. And it's deceiving how lightly you can pitch something to get it out that far. You don't have to wing a full cast, a half a cast, a pitch to get it out there. Get it detected, get used to seeing it, and then you'll just become better at placing it in the right location. The third thing is set the down range within a foot or two of the bottom so that you have the most amount of screen actually showing you detail. So you're 60 feet and you're within a foot or two of the bottom, you'll have the biggest viewing range to actually see your bait. That's key. 4, keep those casts short. We talked about that a little bit. Start short, get longer. Then 5, don't condition your fish. I made this mistake this year, I'm sure of it, in the championship. Everybody was struggling in practice to catch limits. I was catching limits easily as I was bopping around to certain places developing a pattern, and I would made the mistake of staying too long at each of those pattern places and catching too many fish in practice, and I conditioned them. So, you know, if you're preparing for a tournament, don't condition your fish. If you're fishing this style of fishing and those fish feel that pulse of Panoptic's energy coming in their face, and they set that up or are conditioned to seeing a bait and biting a bait and getting pulled to the surface with that, I think you can condition your fish to that. So be smart about your preparation and your practice. Once you develop a pattern, maybe by catching one here and there, and there's multiple fish, then you could go back to them and be successful in it in the tournament. And I think once you get this style of fishing down, you're going to go to certain spots at certain times of the year with confidence and catch fish with it. It really is an advantageous piece of technology, and I've been able to refine that through practice and practice and practice this summer. So thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe to this video. Share your comments with me, because I'm always interested in learning what people are doing and what you're doing to set your unit up, and what you're doing to see and detect fish and you know, utilize this technology to be more successful on the water.